Reverse engineering is the process of taking a real object and converting it into its digital form, usually for the purpose of recreating the object. So we might take something that we've scanned, made a 3D model of it, and then we basically convert it into a CAD model so it can be remanufactured through a process like casting or machining. We also might maybe take something that is old or worn and we scan it so that we can make it new, because no one makes them anymore, so that's the only way of making it is by basically recreating it. Or it might just be something that's only got a 2D reference and we need to turn it into a 3D reference to modernize the type of model that's been made. So the main benefit of scan data is the fact that it basically allows you to reverse engineer faster. You're using a model that is accurately measured, that you can constantly take measurement references from. It allows you to speed up, because the old method used to be using 2D or manual measurements that you're constantly having to refer to. It became a much more laborious process, whereas with a 3D model we have the ability to constantly reference it whilst we're modelling. It also allows us to extract features that are hard to model, such as organic curves or complex shapes. So scan data can come from multiple forms, but typically the form is basically what's called a point cloud has been converted into what's called a mesh. Now, a mesh is basically a bunch of tiny little flat triangles that are all stitched together to make a 3D model. A point cloud is basically a bunch of dots in space, all with a known position and reference of each other. And this is captured from a scanner, which typically captures a 3D image of dots and then stitches them together and basically builds as a 3D model. It's easier to work with scan data because we can basically extract and physically measure the surfaces. We know where everything is in relative to each other, especially good scan data. We can basically always know, say, how far away something is. We can also fit to the surfaces of the scan data to make those complex shapes just automatically be extracted. So it makes the job basically a lot easier. Scan data can also be used for either remanufacture, so you can either just scan something and reproduce it from the model itself. You can also primarily use it a lot for inspection, especially if it's done on what's called a metrology or high accuracy scanner. We can basically measure and check the quality control, check against tolerances, drawings and so on, and see if the part's been actually manufactured correctly. And we can also use it a lot for digital twinning, asset creation and marketing, because we're creating a digital model. So anything that we need to show the digital model on, from say movies, marketing images on a website, advertisement, we can basically put that model in there to be used. There's kind of three areas that you kind of can work in. So there's solid modeling. This would be the art of making something very geometric in shape. Things like CAD software like SOLIDWORKS and stuff like this would typically be, that's their role. There's freeform modeling, which is more organic, so this would be anything from, like, say, a mouse or like an animal or something like this. Not very hard edges, not 90-degree angles. This is things like automotive industry, car panel modeling and stuff like that. And then there's just conversion, so we basically scan an object and we just need to turn it from a mesh into a CAD, and the reason for that is just not all software accepts meshes, so they need to accept CAD, so we convert it by basically just almost like shrink wrapping the part, converts it into a CAD, and then we can go and say machine it out of wood or cast it in bronze. Typically, most people, it tends to be industry, so that's often where they've got usually old parts that they don't have models for, and they need to basically convert them into models. And then the other side would be third party. Basically, for example, say you want to make a spoiler to fit on a car. The car manufacturer is not going to give you the model of the car, so we'll instead scan your car, get the model for it, and now you can nicely fit a perfect spoiler to it.